Pictures from space today and tested the lunar module designed to land men on the moon. 2 of the men spent several hours inside the lunar bug. This is William Jones. The lunar module designed to land our astronauts on the moon received its first tests in space today, and it worked. As planned, the astronauts sent back live television pictures from the module, but the day was not without its problems. ABC science editor Jules Bergman reports.
This is the way it is inside the lunar bug, and these pictures were beamed live early today after Rusty Schweickart on the left and Jim McDivitt had floated into the LEM through the tunnel from the command module. Despite nausea and vomiting, Schweickart was able to check out the LEM alone. After bad voice signals at first, McDivitt came through loud and clear.
Roger, how do you read me right now?
Oh, we're reading you loud and clear, Spider.
Okay, I guess we're just not getting out on the box or something. Gumdrop's reading me all right, but you weren't.
Okay, I'm not reading Gumdrop at all, and I am reading you loud and clear now, and the TV picture has been real good.
Okay, we're going to have the, I'll be talking to the press now. Okay, how do you read now,
Cliff, you're coming through loud and clear, Rusty. It's real good.
After the TV, they fired up the lunar bug's descent engine, the one that has to land astronauts on the moon in future flights. The big engine, the first that can be throttled for manned flights, performed perfectly, changing the path of the 2 dock spacecraft over the Earth. The big question now is, will Schweickart be able to perform his 2-hour spacewalk tomorrow? If he should become nauseous and vomit in a spacesuit with a closed helmet, it could be fatal. The final decision won't be made until tomorrow morning. The medics are unlikely to let Schweickart attempt the spacewalk if they feel there's any chance of his becoming ill. But the second live TV show from inside the LEM may take place even if the EVA is dropped. Apollo 9 into its 3rd day in orbit. Both spacecraft performing beautifully despite the return of the strange nausea that has bugged earlier Apollo flights. This is Jules Bergman at ABC Space Headquarters.
ABC will cover astronaut Schweikart's walk in space tomorrow live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if the walk takes place.
Our walk in space by astronaut Russell Schweickart is in jeopardy tonight as illness has once again struck at the flight of Apollo 9. Schweickart reported to NASA ground officials in Houston this morning that he was sick and vomiting. But the nausea passed and Schweickart was able to make the scheduled transfer from the command module to the attached lunar landing craft. Later today, Schweickart took an anti-nausea and anti-diarrhea pill. For a report on today's events, here is Nelson Benton with Chief Astronaut Physician Dr. Charles Berry at the Houston Space Center, and then David Shoemaker at CBS News Space Headquarters in New York.
Doctor, getting right to the flight of Apollo 9 and Russell Schweickart, how sick is he?
Well, it's impossible to tell right now, Ben, exactly how sick he is. All we really know at the moment is that he has had some nausea and vomited on 2 occasions, and that was this morning. Since that time, he's carried out a good deal of activity in the flight plan, carried out most of the flight plan activities that were online for today, and we hope to get a better reading on that here within the next few hours and make our decisions about tomorrow.
Schweickart requested a pill for motion sickness before launch. How long before launch did he ask for that? Was this a spur of the moment thing, or was he worried about motion sickness?
No, he was worried about motion sickness. Rusty has had some motion sickness occur in some of the zero-G aircraft flights, which is not unusual. This happens to a lot of people because of the positive and negative G mixed with some zero-G and the warmness of inside the aircraft. He also had some of the same sort of motion sickness of a different type, really, on the water in egress exercise, and that's not uncommon among our people also, even after some of the missions we've observed this, of course. So while these episodes seemed very prominent to him, he decided that he would be better off to be prepared in view of the experience of the Apollo 8 crew where they had this early in the flight.
It would seem that perhaps this might have contributed one way or another, perhaps against selecting him for extravehicular activity, and yet apparently it did not. Can you explain that?
No, I don't think so, because we haven't felt that he was that prone to, any more necessarily prone to motion sickness than some of our other crewmen have been, because it's a different type. He can fly all sorts of acrobatic maneuvers and things of that sort without any sense of motion sickness whatsoever.
Schweikart's upset stomach this morning delayed the checkout of the lunar module for 80 minutes. But finally, the astronauts were given permission to remove the tunnel hardware, clearing the crawlway into the LEM. A complicated process described by engineer Leo Krupp at our North American simulator.
As soon as the umbilicals are stowed, then he takes the actuating handle and releases the probe, which collapses it. He then releases the capture latches by turning the knob on the end of the probe, and he's then free to pull the probe away from the drogue and bring it into the command module. Now, this piece of hardware weighs 83 pounds, and again, it's not difficult to handle, but you do have to move it slowly. Now, this is handed to Rusty Schweickart, who stowed it underneath the right couch. The only thing holding the two vehicles together at this time are the 12 capture latches that are engaged around the docking rings. The last piece of tunnel hardware to be removed is the drogue itself, and that is very simple to remove. You just release a lock and turn it about 10 degrees, and it comes free. He then has to turn it 90 degrees to line it up, and it just barely fits between the tunnel ring, and he also brings that into the command module.
The astronauts turned on their television cameras soon after they entered the LEM. Rusty Schweickart to the left, Jim McDivitt in the foreground. Dave Scott, of course, remained behind in the mothership. The 7-minute TV broadcast was good, except for audio problems. The astronauts had trouble with their microphones, but they didn't seem to want to say anything anyway. However, they really do use the terms spider and gumdrop to refer to the LEM and command module, a relief to reporters who said they would and then waited 2 days without hearing them use the words once. Satisfied that all systems were working properly, Jim McDivitt then turned on the LEM's descent engine, the one which will gently lower men to the surface of the moon. It burned so smoothly that halfway through the 6-minute test, McDivitt talked mostly about how hungry he was. The astronauts have left the LEM and rejoined Scott in the command ship. The question now is about tomorrow's spacewalk. It could be postponed one day or even canceled if Schweickart is not up to it. Officials will review the situation through the night. David Shoemaker, CBS News, Space Headquarters, New York.
Apollo 9 continued in orbit around the Earth today, and its crew performed the most dramatic and delicate job so far of the 10-day mission. Russell Schweickart and Colonel James McDivitt moved through a narrow tunnel from the command ship into the odd-shaped moon landing vehicle, and from there they broadcast to the Earth from a fixed television camera. Communications were bad, and most of the time the men could not be heard. Schweickart, on the left, was the first to enter the lunar landing ship, and it took some doing. Only hours before, he had been sick to his stomach. He was joined by Colonel McDivitt, and they left behind Colonel David Scott to pilot the command ship. Schweickart turned on the power, oxygen, and other systems. Then he and McDivitt went about finding out whether the delicate, thin-skinned machine could indeed do the job for which it was intended, that is, landing men on the moon. They let down its 4 spindly legs, and finally they fired the engine which will make the spacecraft descend to the moon. All that done, the men returned to the command module, their day a success. And Dr. Thomas Paine, who has been acting head of the space agency, today got the job officially. He was appointed by President Nixon, who said that he had searched the country for the right man and found he was in the program already. David?
The West Germans elected a president named Gustav. Astronaut Russell Schweikart's walk in space, scheduled for tomorrow, was canceled tonight. He was to walk between the command module and the moon landing ship, but he had 2 stomach upsets today, and Colonel James McDivitt told the ground controllers that Schweickart simply was not up to it.